Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'm going to be doing another director rankings, and of course we'll be looking at the movies from Steven Spielberg. So one of the best, and if not a lot of people's favourite director of all time. For me, he has certainly made some of the most impactful and amazing films ever. Astonishing contributions to cinema that this guy has absolutely put out and managed to accomplish. He does have some duds though, in my opinion. For me, there are some movies that just didn't work for me, didn't work for a lot of people. But yeah, I just thought I'd look at the 35 movies that I have of his. These are all the theatrical release movies. There's one or two TV movies that I've not seen, a bit hard to get hold of, but these are all the main ones, the big heavy hitters that he's known for. And yeah, there's 35 in total here, but I do want to start off by saying this is just my personal ranking of his 35 movies. These are the ones that just appeal to my taste, and I've put them in order from least favorite to favorite. So you're going to have your own list, you're going to have your own preferences, and that's absolutely awesome. That is cool. Happy days. But for me, these are just the ones that appeal to me in order of ranking. So please don't get upset but if you see your favourite film at the bottom, if you see your least favourite film at the top. It's just my preference, and yeah, everyone's got their own. So yeah, that being said, gonna kick it off with number 35.
Amity, as you know, means friendship.
So coming in at number 35 for me, we have 1941. Now this movie for me had all the pedigree, all of the ingredients to be a decent, competent movie. The cast, you've got John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, two comedy legends at the helm. You've also got Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale writing the screenplay for this movie, and of course Steven Spielberg behind the camera as the director. So this came out, I want to say, roughly late 70s, 79, 78. It just didn't work for me as a comedy. So much so, it bombed that much at the box office as well. I think Steven Spielberg was due to direct The Blues Brothers the following year, and Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi were like strongly against him directing that movie, although he did have a cameo in the film. Yeah, this one just didn't live up to a Spielberg movie when I watched it, unfortunately. It just had these missing ingredients that just didn't work, despite having such stacked talent behind it. And it sort of follows these two pilots who, I think it takes place a couple of days after the Pearl Harbor attack, and they're preparing for another one, how to sort of deal with it. And it goes down the comedy route, and for me it just doesn't work. And the movie's forgettable as well, unfortunately. It just doesn't. There's nothing really that sticks out about it, unfortunately. But it's not an awful movie, but it's not a good one either. Well, something had to come in last place. So number 35 for me, we have 1941. So coming up next at number 34, we have Always. Now again, some good talent behind this movie. Spielberg, of course, as director. The cast, Holly Hunter, Richard Dreyfuss, John Goodman. You've even got Audrey Hepburn in there as well. Really good acting talent. Now it kind of follows the story of this pilot who passed away, and his spirit is kind of helping and looking after this new pilot who's in love with the dead pilot's sort of ex-girlfriend, or his girlfriend that he left behind. And again, similar to 1941, unfortunately, this movie, there's just nothing memorable about it. It is just so bland, very, very, I don't want to say vanilla because I like vanilla, but it just is so safe, and just, yeah, it just doesn't take any risks at all, that sort of pay off at least. It's just a very, very forgettable movie. Apart from that one shot of that plane coming into land at the beginning, that is stunning. but the rest of the movie, for me, unfortunately, left a lot to be desired. So that is my number 34 pick, Always. So coming up next at number 33, we have a bit of a debatable movie, whether it should be included on this list, but it is Twilight Zone, the movie.
Never too old to play, Mr. Conroy. You see, when I rest, I rest.
Now, for me, this is an accumulation of a lot of directors. This is 4 directors: George Miller, John Landis, Joe Dante, and of course Steven Spielberg, all sort of remaking an episode each of the Twilight Zone to put together to make this horror anthology version of the movie. Now, the reason why it's so low on the list, firstly, I've got to say, I do love this movie. I do really enjoy it. But the reason why it's so low on the list is because of that Steven Spielberg outing, unfortunately. The Spielberg segment to this movie, for me, is by far the worst of the 4. It's not awful, it is just completely dwarfed in terms of its entertainment by the other 3 stories, particularly the George Miller one. That for me is just the standout. It's amazing. But the Spielberg entry for me is by far the worst. It is the least entertaining. It's borderline boring, unfortunately. But I wanted to include this on this list because Spielberg did put his directing talent to the helm in this movie for that segment. So, yeah, that is my next pick. Twilight Zone, the movie. So coming up next at 32, we have AI, artificial intelligence.
A sensory toy with intelligent behavioral circuits.
So, unfortunately for me, this is one of these movies that does absolutely nothing for me. It's like going to a restaurant, ordering your favourite food, and they serve you up an empty plate. It just did absolutely nothing. My enjoyment with this movie was completely null and void. I don't know what it was, but I do have to say visually the movie was absolutely outstanding and astonishing to look at. The story just did nothing for me. I just couldn't get into this movie, and it's not the movie's fault. There's a lot of people who like this movie, who go as far to say love this movie. It was supposed to be the next movie that Stanley Kubrick was to direct before he passed away, and Spielberg picked up the helm, made it his own. But it just didn't do a single thing for me, and I don't know why. I don't know. It sort of follows this young lad who's at the peak of artificial intelligence in terms of what humans have created, and he just longs for that human element to be stored to his life. Very much kind of reminded me a bit of like a high-tech Pinocchio, but yeah, unfortunately the rewatch factor wasn't there. I didn't remember much about it. It just wasn't a fun watch for me, this one. And I don't know why, because a lot of people like it. So, yeah, that's my next pick. AI, artificial intelligence. So 31 for me, we have the BFG.
The other giants, are they nice? Like you're nice?
No, or sorry to say, the boys would eat you up in one dollop.
So again, I wasn't really big into this story. I saw the animated movie once or twice when I was younger and liked it for what it was. So I was excited to see Spielberg sort of see what he could do with this adaptation and what he could bring to the table with it. And I was a bit disappointed with it, I must say. I thought, oh, he's really going to do something fun with the designs of the meaner, bigger giants in this movie. They were all pretty much generic. I just didn't get on board with that at all. I did enjoy Mark Rylance as the BFG himself and the young actress who played Sophie in the movie. I thought they were really good. But I do have an issue with the final act of this film where it kind of sort of ends up at Buckingham Palace. The Queen gets involved. I've never really liked that part of the story. I've always thought it was far-fetched and a bit overdrawn, over-bloated, and it just doesn't work for me. So, yeah, the movie was just a little bit disappointing for me. Didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to. So, yeah, that's the BFG. So coming in at number 30 for me, we have what I think would probably be most people's rock bottom when it comes to Spielberg movies. But for me, I can't quite give it that title. But it is, I've got it in this box set here, it is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Now, I was so excited with the announcement of a fourth Indiana Jones movie at the time. I adore and love that original trilogy. We'll be getting into that a bit later on in the video, but yes, so excited, and I think every Indiana Jones fan was as well. Spielberg was coming back, Harrison Ford was coming back. It was just, the intrigue was there, and it was the worst one out of the four at the time. It just, it kind of left people baffled, I think, myself included. Weren't too sure if we liked it or not. Shia LaBeouf, the inclusion of him in this movie doesn't work. He should be a million miles away from this project, in my opinion. He just didn't add anything to the story at all. The praise I will give it, though, is it does look like an Indiana Jones film, definitely. It's a really nice welcome back to the John Williams score as well. But the ending made or broke this movie for a lot of people, I think, with its big reveal, what the movie was accumulating to. It just didn't work for a lot of people. I wasn't too bothered myself at the time, but I think over the years I've grown to sort of understand people's frustrations with it, and my own frustrations with the movie as well. But I do think it does have some entertainment factor to it. It's Indiana Jones, after all. He's one of cinema's most iconic characters, but it just doesn't hold a candle to that original trilogy by any means. So, yeah, coming in at number 30 for me, we have Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Number 29 now, and we have the Sugarland Express.
2 for us and half fare for baby Langston. I spent $65. We're going to Los Angeles so you can go white collar.
So I think this was Spielberg's first theatrical film after Duel, and yeah, 1972 I believe. And this is a good one. This is a really good little movie starring Goldie Hawn, William Atherton as well from Ghostbusters and Die Hard fame as well. And it sort of follows her, who wants to sort of rebuild and reconnect the family that she had. So her husband, played by William Atherton, is pretty much, she's just got out of prison. She wants to sort of reunite with him, and they kind of kidnap their son from his care that he's in. And there's a way to do things right, and there's a way to do things wrong when being in that scenario, and they go about it the wrong way. They end up as well kidnapping like a police officer as well. It's kind of like one of these road trip movies where things just look bleak and the outcome doesn't look good. But yeah, unfortunately, it just doesn't reach the heights of some of Spielberg's other work for me. It just is kind of like shadowed and closed in by those other movies, but it is still good. It is still worth checking out. So yeah, that's my next pick, the Sugarland Express. 28 now, and we have Warhorse.
Be brave! Fear God! Honor the King!
So yeah, this is a World War I movie. It follows this young lad whose horse was sold into the military and was kind of like used as a horse on the front line. And he enlists with the army as well to try and sort of find his horse again. And I must say, for being a movie set during World War I, you would think, this is kind of like a bleak setting. It's going to be a bleak story. The movie, when you watch it, it does have like a really good charm to it that I just really enjoyed, really liked. It kind of shone quite a bit when it came to that. Benedict Cumberbatch as well has like a really good, memorable part in the movie. He's a really good actor in this film. But yeah, it was just overall a little charming movie that just, unfortunately, again, it doesn't live up to the heights of Spielberg's better work, in my opinion. We are going to get on some really, really strong movies, that on this list that do like have, the standards are set quite high. Warhorse still is a good movie. It just doesn't live up to those heights, unfortunately. So yeah, that's my next pick, Warhorse. So coming in at number 27, we have the first of a few, well, a couple of remakes by Spielberg. And this is his penultimate film as of the time of recording this video, and it is West Side Story.
This will be a shiny new neighborhood of rich people in beautiful apartments with Puerto Rican doormen that chase trash like you away.
So yeah, this was a really, really good remake in my opinion. I do like the original film. It's, you know, a wonderful musical. It's an onslaught against the senses as well. Your eyes and ears are just bombarded. And yeah, it's a joy to watch. But unfortunately for me, it just didn't have the rewatch factor. It was a one and done thing. The movie did its job. It was a wonderful treat, but I've just had no desire to go back and rewatch this film. But the two leads were really good in the movie. It just, like I said, didn't have that rewatch factor, unfortunately, which is why it falls in at this place. But we are getting into really good Spielberg territory right now, just not the flawless stuff, in my opinion, anyway. So, yeah, that's my next pick, West Side Story. So, coming in at number 26 now, we have The Post.
Okay.
If so, we could be held in contempt.
Meaning?
Well, we could all go to prison.
So this again was another one of these movies that I think around about the same time, during, you know, the 2010s, Spielberg was doing a lot of these movies that were a lot more grounded, a lot more dialogue heavy driven, less action set pieces, more, you know, character focused. And this one, probably one of his best in those attempts, in my opinion. You've got powerhouse actors like Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, absolutely, you know, Oscar pedigree actors. And yeah, the one who really sort of held his own in this movie for me was Jesse Plemons. I thought he was really good. It sort of follows the Watergate scandal, well, that was going on at the time in America, and how it was being reported, and how, you know, from a journalistic perspective, how they were going to tackle this. And it was pretty much, you know, cages were going to be rattled. A lot of people were going to be upset, particularly from the side of the government, and how they were going to, you know, react to all of this, whether the journalists should post what they were going to say about them. It was just a very, very risky time. But yeah, I enjoyed this. Amazing actors in it, amazing performances, and again, just another good one from Spielberg. So yeah, that's my next pick, The Post. So coming in at number 25 next, we have, I believe, another remake from Spielberg. I do like the original movie as well. But yeah, next up at 25, we have War of the Worlds. Starring Tom Cruise. So again, this is like a mid-2000s movie. This was Spielberg action at probably it's one of its best, in my opinion. Really, really delivered. There was a sequence in this movie where a lot of people are running away from the aliens when they like first come and land on Earth, and people are just getting obliterated left, right, and center. It was just a joy to watch. It was really, really exciting, really exhilarating stuff. And yeah, it was just the ending of the movie as well is going to make or break it for a lot of people. It kind of like how the big payoff comes to the end, how we find out, you know, how when the movie comes to its, you know, its climax, its culmination. But yeah, I just overall thought this was a very good, very entertaining movie. Not perfect. There are some creases there, some kinks in the movie along the way that are stopping this from being a great one. But it is a very, very entertaining watch, to say the least. So yeah, that's my next pick, War of the Worlds. 24 now, and we have Bridge of Spies. Starring Tom Hanks. So again, this is a really good spy espionage thriller. It sort of follows Tom Hanks, who's this defense attorney who's been brought in to defend this Soviet Union spy who's been captured, played by Mark Rylance. And it kind of deals with all of that stuff that someone in his position would have to deal with, all the prejudice, the attacking him for defending someone from the Soviet Union. And he all just wants the best outcome with this situation. Mark Rylance was really good again in this movie. He was kind of Spielberg's lucky charm at this point. He was popping up in Spielberg movies left, right, and centre at the time. And yeah, it's a really good espionage movie. There's a good action sequence that takes place in the movie as well, I really enjoyed. But again, very grounded, very dialogue-driven movie with some amazing performances at the helm as well. So yeah, that's my next pick, Bridge of Spies. So coming in at number 23 now, we have Lincoln.
The Constitution gives me war powers. But no one knows just exactly what those powers are.
So again, absolutely powerhouse cast behind this one. Very much, again, a dialogue-driven movie following Abraham Lincoln, played expertly by Daniel Day-Lewis, winning his 3rd Oscar in the lead role again for this one. Amazing cast, too many names to mention in this one. Following, obviously, a bit of a biopic about Abe Lincoln, who, at the heart of the Civil War, and how he was making this amendment to free the slaves. And yeah, it was just a really, really good, interesting movie. I think Spielberg at the time called, like, you know, who better to play Daniel Day-Lewis than the greatest actor alive at the time, that was Daniel Day-Lewis. It was an amazing casting choice. But again, it feels like a very small movie. I would have liked to have seen, you know, more like grand landscapes in this movie, grand sort of war scenarios that were going on in it, because it was set during the American Civil War. But like I said, it was a bit of a biopic for Lincoln. It does lead up as well to his assassination in the movie as well, by John Wilkes Booth. But yeah, it's a really good, interesting biopic, historical drama. Feels very much like a play as well at times, a bit close-knit. But like I said, the performances in this are worth the price of administration alone. So yeah, that's my next pick, Lincoln. So coming up next for me at number 22, we have Amistad.
Well, the case is much simpler than you think, Mr. Tabbitt. I mean, it's like anything, isn't it? Land, livestock, heirlooms, what have you.
This again is one of these great dramas from the 90s. I think this was 97 as well. It came out pretty much the same time as Lost World. So he kind of had that same experience. I'm guessing that he did, sort of making Jurassic Park and Schindler's List at the time, directing the sequel to Jurassic Park and Amistad, pretty much like back and forth between the two movies, and they couldn't be more different from each other. But this one is a really good movie. It's about an investigation that takes place about the ship that was sort of captured, and I've got to say, when that, I don't want to give too much away, but when that happens in the movie, for me, it was just harrowing, and you just felt so helpless watching it. Like, this all could have been avoided. It's a really, really harrowing scene in the movie. It was really, really upsetting at times to watch, but it was just so well done. And it kind of, basically the investigation is, were these people on the ship, were they slaves or were they free at the time? And they had to sort of come to that determination. But again, powerhouse acting as well. Anthony Hopkins, Morgan Freeman, Matthew McConaughey. I just really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a really good, strongly performed movie. So that is my number 22 pick, Amistad. So coming in at number 21 for me, we have Empire of the Sun. So this is, again, one of these movies by Spielberg that is a fantastic spectacle. This movie looks absolutely gorgeous. You have an amazing star performance from a really young Christian Bale in this movie as well, who plays this young British boy in China at the time, but China's very, very much under the occupation of the Japanese in this movie, and it's about him. He gets separated from his family, and it's about him sort of taking in what's going on, what's happening, how to survive with everything that's going on. It's just a very transient movie as well. It's well paced. You never stay in the same place long enough for it to overstay its welcome. It's just on and on and on. It's relentless with its pacing in this movie. The only issue I have with it is I think the movie is a bit too long in the tooth for that. But yeah, you've also got like a young performance in here as well from Ben Stiller. John Malkovich is great in the movie as well. Really good cast. But yeah, Christian Bale's who we follow in this movie, and he's a fabulous little actor in this film. So yeah, really, really enjoy this one. So coming in at number 21, we have Empire of the Sun. So coming in at number 20, I believe this is Spielberg's most recent movie as well. I'd really like this film. Really had a good time with it. It did have its problems for me, but yeah, number 20 we have The Fabelmans.
When the horizon's at the bottom, it's interesting. When the horizon's at the top, it's interesting. When the horizon's in the middle, it's boring as shit.
So this again is kind of like his own sort of biographical movie without being biographical at the same time. It's very strange, but you can definitely tell this movie is cinema. It is all about discovering cinema. It is all about falling in love with cinema and wanting to try your hand at cinema, all in this nice little package. It's a really good little charming film with, again, some great performances in it. And yeah, that's pretty much what I got from the movie. It was just about cinema and how Spielberg sort of wanted to tell this tale from a different perspective about someone having the same experiences as him growing up and base it on his life. Now, I do have a problem with the movie, and for me, the problem is Michelle Williams. She's not a bad actress at all by any means, but I could not stand her character in this movie. I just could not get on board with her. She was more annoying than Lady Macbeth. But yeah, just really, really couldn't stand her in this film at all. Everyone else, though, really good. Paul Dano, Seth Rogen, the young lad in the lead role. We even got a small cameo from the late David Lynch as John Ford at the end of this movie, which I thought was just amazing. Didn't even realise it at the time when I was watching the movie, but what a nice little treat. So, yeah, coming in at number 20 for me, we have The Fabelmans. So, number 19 for me now, we have Munich.
We have 11 Palestinian names. Each had a hand in planning Munich. You're going to kill them, 11 men, one by one.
So this again was a movie for me that went under my radar when it came out. I didn't hear of this movie up until about 10 years ago, in all honesty. It just completely passed me by. Did not know about it at all. And I was interested to see it. Of course, Spielberg, being the director of this one, really enjoyed it. And I didn't really know much about what this movie was about either. It was about the 1972 Olympics and the Israeli team who were kidnapped and murdered, pretty much live on television when all that sort of, it just broke out. And it kind of deals with the aftermath of that incident and how sort of this team was put together to try and take down the people who organised it and who were responsible for the kidnapping and the eventual murder of the Israeli sort of Olympic team. Really harrowing stuff. Didn't know it was based on a true story at all either. It was just a nice surprise, sort of discover this unfortunate, horrific story that I just knew nothing about. It sounds awful saying that, but I was glad it was brought to my attention. Such a tragic event. But yeah, this is a really good movie. Eric Bana, Jeffrey Rush as well. Good little cast. Yeah, enjoyed this movie. So that's my number 19 pick, Munich. So coming in at number 18 now, we have The Colour Purple.
You cut me and I'll kill you.
So this is one of Spielberg's like grand American epics, I think. This is a stunning looking film. It pretty much tells pretty much like a 40-year span story of a black woman in the South of America and just having to sort of deal with prejudice, racism, abuse, It sounds awful, but it's a very, very good executed film, and those things are awful and they shouldn't have happened. But it just sort of deals with that time in history, and yeah, it's just a well done executed movie. The great cast as well. Whoopi Goldberg, Danny Glover is really good in this movie as well. Just very brutal character. Oprah Winfrey as well. I didn't really know much about her acting abilities until I saw this movie as well, but it was just really good. A good starting point as well for, like I said, Whoopi Goldberg. Kind of sort of put her on the map as well, but it's just a stunning looking movie with some really sort of heart-wrenching and brutal topics that it touches on. But it's a good movie from Spielberg, to say the least. So, yeah, that's The Colour Purple. So coming in at number 17 for me, we have Jurassic Park, The Lost World. Don't move! A decent follow-up for me, in my opinion. It was great to see the dinosaurs again in this movie. It's done a little bit bigger, on a little bit grander scale, some more different dinosaurs in this one that we don't see. Jeff Goldblum is back as well. And we do get like a small role in the movie as well from Richard Attenborough as John Hammond. But yeah, there is some things in this movie that just didn't work for me. You massively feel the absence of Sam Neill and Laura Dern in this one. It just has missing ingredients that just stop it from being as good as the original. For me, the original is one of the best movies ever made. I love and adore that movie. But this one, kind of rare to see Spielberg come back to direct the sequel as well, so it does have that going for it. Pete Postlethwaite is a lot of fun in this movie as well, as like a hunter who's just dying to get his hands on a male Tyrannosaurus Rex in this film. But it just loses its way a bit at the end for me. It gets a bit silly, it gets a bit overdrawn. T-Rex in the city. It was actually, I think this was the first Spielberg film I actually saw at the cinema, to be honest, and I just remember like really enjoying it, really having a lot of fun with this film. But for me, it just cannot hold a candle to the original. The original is one of the most entertaining movies ever. But yeah, The Lost World, it's a decent follow-up if you want more of the original, but it just isn't as good. So yeah, that's my next pick. Jurassic Park, The Lost World. So coming up next at number 16 for me, we have Tom Hanks again in The Terminal.
And this apple,
Big apple.
the Big Apple, represents the Liberty Rebels. Okay?
So this is, again, one of these movies that is so small in its scale and what's going on. It just really works so well. Very small cast. Stanley Tucci as well, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and of course Tom Hanks, who plays this traveller. He's come to America, but he finds out in the news that his country's like in this massive turmoil. So it's actually illegal for him to be where he is, and he can't leave the airport. He can't go anywhere. He has to stay there until all this unfortunate business with his country is resolved. So he's just stranded at this airport, and it's just him meeting people, getting along with the staff. He's stuck there. He hasn't really got much he can do. He's just trying to make ends meet with what he's got. It's a very small movie, but it works. It's so effective. It's very delightful with its characters as well. So I enjoy this one for what it is. So that is my next pick, The Terminal. So coming in at number 15 for me now, we have Catch Me If You Can.
Two little mice fell in a bucket of cream.
Again, another Tom Hanks movie, and of course, Leonardo DiCaprio in the lead role. Pretty much as this con man who is always one step ahead of the authorities trying to catch him in this movie, headed by Tom Hanks. Really good fun movie, really exciting movie. It's good to see, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio as this very crafty con man who was just outsmarting people left, right and centre, and seeing him frustrate the authorities who were just always that one or two steps behind him. Great cast as well. Christopher Walken as DiCaprio's father in the movie as well as great. He gives an amazing speech about the two mice. Yeah, just really, really love this movie. Really, really entertaining and enjoyable, to be honest. I just really enjoyed it. Obviously, it doesn't have the happy ending you would think when it comes to certain characters, but it's well worth checking out, and it was good to see the outcome of this movie as well. I really found it interesting. So, decent entry from Spielberg here. So that is Catch Me If You Can. So number 14 for me now, we have Ready Player One. I had no idea what this was about, except all I knew was that this movie was based on a book, and I just didn't know what to expect, what this movie was going to deliver going into it, completely blind. So, and I've got to say, this was an absolute delight. It really was. Sort of following this game that is pretty much taking the world by storm. It's pretty much a virtual reality game. And there are 3 keys that all these players have to sort of find to win this like big prize. And just the characters in this virtual world, it was just an onslaught of pop culture references. It was just a joy to watch. It was too much to take in with everything that we were seeing on screen. It was just an onslaught. It was bombardment. And I just loved every second of it. I just thought it was great, so entertaining. It's actually all the stuff that, away from that for me, that kind of slows the movie down a bit, doesn't make it too perfect. But decent villain in here, decent story, I liked it. It was just a joy to watch, to see all these characters doing what they're doing in this movie. It was just really entertaining. So, yeah, that's my next pick, Ready Player One. So coming in at number 13 for me now, we have The Adventures of Tintin and The Secret of the Lost Unicorn.
The Sheik collects old ships, and this is the prize of his collection.
Just to get the full title in there. Very, very underrated adventure movie. This has the excitement and the adventure that I think Crystal Skull should have had. It's a very, very fast-paced movie with a lot of fun. They were sort of pushing the boundaries a bit again with this sort of animated / live-action blend that they were doing with the movies at the time. Zemeckis was doing a lot of it as well. And, yeah, it was just a good, fun Tintin movie. We hadn't really had one before. Great characters, a lot of fun, great adventure. All-round great family entertainment in this movie. It just delivered. What a delight, what a treat. I just think it's one of Spielberg's most underrated movies. Really, really enjoy this one. So, yeah, that's The Adventures of Tintin. So coming in at number 12 for me is a movie that might be a little bit higher on my list, but I have so much nostalgia for this movie. So number 12 for me is Hook.
Why didn't somebody just shoot me in the head?
Bang! Bang!
Will everybody just shut up?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I used to have the VHS of this. I used to play it quite a fair bit when I was younger. And it just is a visually pleasing movie. It does have its problems, though. It really does. If I was to talk about this movie negatively, I would say it takes a long time for the Peter Pan element to come into play in this movie. It feels like you're on a movie set rather than it feel more organic. It's just a bit over bloated. It's a bit long in the tooth. It's nearly 2.5 hours with its runtime. But there are things about this movie I absolutely love. The John Williams score is beautiful in this film. The 4K transfer looks absolutely stunning. Some of the shots of Neverland, particularly when they're looking out from the treehouse, is just gorgeous. It's just an all-round fun movie. I love the interaction with Peter and the Lost Boys when they're trying to sort of help him remember who he is. Great supporting cast as well. A few little cameos in there as well. Even Dustin Hoffman as the pilot at the start of the movie when they're on the plane was a nice little touch. Spielberg used him to voice the pilot to sort of enhance Peter's fear of flying, which was a really good touch. But yeah, it's just it's a delightful, fun, entertaining movie, but it does have its problems. This movie as well for me had some very creepy imagery when I was younger. The boo box really terrified me. And there was a character's death in this movie as well that really sort of upset me when I was younger. It really sort of made me jump out my skin when it happened, because I just wasn't expecting it at all. But yeah, I've got a lot of nostalgia attachment to this movie, which is why it's so high on the list. So coming up next for me, we have Hook. It's coming in at number 11 for me. Just missing out on the top 10, we have Minority Report.
I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks and Donald Dubin that was to take place today, April 22nd, at 0800 hours, 4 minutes.
No, I didn't do anything.
Again, starring Tom Cruise. Really like the concept in this one. It's very sci-fi heavy, but it sort of follows these three sort of precogs who can predict murders before they happen and who actually commits them. And these police enforcement team arrest the murderer before the murder actually takes place. And what happens is Tom Cruise is like the team leader of one of these sort of police units, and his name gets pulled next as someone who's about to murder someone. And it's pretty much him on the run, how he can outsmart, outrun the law. It's a really high-paced, tense movie. Really, really enjoy it with some non-stop action in it. Very underrated film. I quite like it a fair bit. It's just a really good, enjoyable film. It's a good performance from Tom Cruise as well. I remember seeing it at the cinema, just being blown away by it. It was just awesome. Just a really cool sci-fi movie with a great concept. So yeah, just missing out on the top 10 for me, we have Minority Report. So coming in at number 10 for me, we have Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So this movie had to work hard to win me over, in my opinion. I was not a fan of it. My love for it had to sort of grow and marinate. But I'm there now with this movie. I really like it. Really, really fun, enjoyable, well-acted film. I'll get to what I like most about it in a bit, but just to talk about the premise a little bit, it's about this guy in this family town who has this close encounter, as the title would suggest, with a UFO. And it drives him to sort of obsession to find out what's going on. And it all builds to this really awesome, historical, monumental event that's going to happen at the end of this film. But what I love most about this movie, what I adore about this film, is the movie's aesthetics. It just really has that awesome suburban hometown feel to it. And it just looks amazing. You can tell that Spielberg would carry that over in other movies as well. The produced Poltergeist, E.T., it just has that look to it. That really, really awesome look that I love about movies. When really good movies pull it off, it just captures that vibe and that feel for me so well. And I just enjoy it. It is just one of the reasons why I love movies. That setting really, really works for me, and it is in abundance in this movie. So yeah, that is my number 10 pick, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So coming up next at number 9 for me, we have Saving Private Ryan. This is, again, one of Spielberg's greatest achievements for me in terms of how he was able to capture certain realism in this movie. The opening scenes, 20-30 minutes of this movie, are some of the finest opening scenes you will ever see in cinema. It's harrowing, it's realistic, it's gritty, it's upsetting for all the right reasons. It just doesn't shy away from the horrors of war, the opening of this movie. But after that, it's more of a tale of finding this Private Ryan who's lost his brothers in war, and he's been told that he's the last one of his family, so he has to go home. And it's all about that journey. It's all about the characters we meet along the way. The ending to this movie as well, the culmination where it just feels outgunned, outnumbered, is just such a well-made movie. It just is. I don't know what else I can say about it. It's more of an experience than it is a movie. It's just a joy to see Spielberg helm an amazing war film. You would, in my opinion, you would helm a much better earlier war movie. But this, for me, is a different take, a different angle of the Second World War that he looks at in this film. And yeah, he pulls it off in abundance. It won him his, I believe, his second Oscar for Best Director. Yeah, just a really good achievement, this movie. So, coming at number 9 for me, we have Saving Private Ryan. So coming in at number 8 for me, we're going all the way back to the early 70s now, to Spielberg's first feature-length movie, and that is Duel. So, yeah, what a great starting point for this movie. So tense and so simple. It follows a guy who's in his car traveling, and he ends up sort of crossing paths with a very disgruntled truck driver who is set out to kill him and cause much, much, much distress. But there's so many little things going on in this movie, so many little details that I just didn't pick up on, that I just absolutely love in this movie. This movie got me thinking with its details. All of the license plates at the front of this truck made me it just made me think, like, oh, are they like other cars that this truck has come across and he's killed them and taken the license plate as trophies? It made me think as well just about how we never see the driver behind the cab. What does this guy look like? Why is he doing what he's doing? It was just baffling. There's just so much deep-rootedness to this movie that just gets you thinking. It is just a joy to watch. It has amazing outdoor settings. The natural light in this movie makes it look amazing. It is just a really good, simple premise. Now, I heard a rumor about this movie as well. I heard that this was because it was Spielberg's first movie, and towards the end of making this film, things were getting quite stressed for him. He was getting very, very antsy, very, very disgruntled, disturbed with how it was going, and he just felt like it was going to be a disaster. So the last day, I don't know how true this is, but the last day of production, I heard that he completely disappeared. That he just never showed up for the last day of production on this movie, because he was just so worried about how the movie was going to turn out, how it was going to be, what the reception was going to be like. And it was a big hit. People loved it. People enjoyed it. So from then on, because it was so well received, Spielberg purposely doesn't turn up on the last day of production because of any movie he makes moving forward. That to me is fucking awesome. I love that about him, if that is true. But yeah, I heard that. I was watching some videos about the making of this movie, and I just thought that is just so true. That is part of the movie magic that you don't see, which really works for me. But Duel is an amazing film and a great starting point for this director's career. Really enjoy this one. So that is my next pick, Duel. So coming up next at number 7, we have Schindler's List.
I could have got more. Oscar, there are 1,100 people who are alive because of you. Look at them.
Now, what can I say about this film? This is one of the most powerful movies you'll probably ever see in your life. Telling the tale of Oskar Schindler, how he saved the lives of so many Jewish people during the Second World War. How he was sort of using his own money to fund his business, which wasn't making money, to keep Jewish people in work so that they were safe during the war. So many people are alive today because of this man. And the tale that Spielberg tells here, I just want to say first off that this movie doesn't sugarcoat the horrors of war. It doesn't cushion any blows at all. It's probably Spielberg's greatest contribution to cinema, the making of this movie. It's flawless, to be honest. It's a very, very harrowing movie, though. It doesn't have the rewatch factor. Understandably, you have to put years in between watching this movie because it is just so emotionally draining with what you invest in it when you watch it, but it is worth it. Everybody, I think, should at least see this movie once in their lifetime. It's just, it doesn't have the rewatch factor for the right reasons. It just tells its tale so well, and it does it effortlessly. It is just a phenomenal film, so well acted. For me, it is the greatest film Spielberg's ever done, but that doesn't mean it's my favourite. It is an exceptional achievement in cinema, and for me, his greatest contribution. So that is my number 7 pick, Schindler's List. Number 6 for me now, and we have E.T. So I think for me, from here on out, these movies for me are all flawless. I just adore all of these movies now leading up to number 1. I think they're all perfect. They're all amazing. Yeah, just these are some of his best work. And E.T., again, is no exception. What a great family feel-good movie this is. It touches on the harsh realities as well. The backdrop, a divorced mother raising her children on her own, and one of the middle child obviously becomes friends with an extraterrestrial who has pretty much been stranded on planet Earth. And it's all about the relationship that they form. They have such great chemistry together. It's just delightful. I bet M&M's are absolutely kicking themselves over the deal that they had. We're going to have with this movie, which eventually obviously went to Reese's Pieces. But yeah, fun little tidbits about this movie as well. Just, yeah, it's just a wonderful, delightful movie. Really, really enjoy it. It's a bittersweet ending as well. It's heartbreaking. Again, the John Williams score goes hand in hand with Spielberg's craftsmanship to this movie. Like I said about Close Encounters as well, the suburban look to this movie, the suburban setting, that family household look, it just works for me so well. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous movie. And yeah, it's just a delightful. One of the big hitters from 82 as well. I think this absolutely sort of, conglomerated the box office when it came out. It was the reason why I think The Thing was so poorly received, because everyone was so on a high after this movie with its themes and what it was on about. It was just a delightful film. Really, really enjoy this one. So that is my next pick, E.T. So coming in at number 5 for me, this is where things get interesting, because this is almost like a little mini ranking in and of itself. We get to the Indiana Jones trilogy now, and this is where I think people are going to be upset with me, but please hear me out. So, my next pick, my number 5 pick, is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, I grew up with the Indiana Jones trilogy. Raiders of the Lost Ark was the one that I used to watch the least, because I just found Temple of Doom and Last Crusade so much more entertaining than Raiders. taking nothing away from this film. This film has earned its significance, its importance. One of the best adventure films ever made. I really do like this movie. I really, really enjoy it. It is a masterpiece of the genre. Fantastic film. But for me, I just preferred the other two just a little bit more. This one is a bit more grounded. It's a bit more slower paced. It takes its time as well with scenes. There are fun scenes in this movie, but it's just those other two films, man. I just enjoy them more. That's just my preference. I still like this movie, still love it, but I have a nostalgia tie to the other two. They were the two that I watched more. But I understand the significance of this movie and its importance, its relevance, its impact. I get it. And I do, don't get me wrong, I love the movie. I think it's a great film. I just love the other two just a little bit more. So coming in at number 5 for me, we have Raiders of the Lost Ark. So coming in at number 4 for me, just missing out on the podium places, we have Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Look, that gun and caught a sniffle.
Are you expected?
Do not take that tone with me, my good man.
Now, again, this was my second favourite Indiana Jones movie. I love it. I thought the inclusion of Sean Connery as Indiana Jones's father was great. Henry Jones, even though the age gap between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery wasn't that big, it's still perfect casting. It was a great inclusion. And again, the pacing of this movie, I love it. The opening scene is so exhilarating. River Phoenix is the young Indiana Jones. We find out so much about him in such a short amount of time. And that search for the Holy Grail, where the movie takes us next, is just great. Just one fun scene after the next. I just absolutely love the pacing of this movie and its climax as well in Petra. It's just so much fun. Really, really enjoy this movie. It is just so grand, so spectacle. Love it. So that is my number 4 pick, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So coming in at number 3 for me now, we have Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
All around! Prepare to meet Kali in hell!
Hands down, my favourite Indiana Jones movie. I love and adore this film. Now, a lot of people would have this one lower down. A lot of people, it's some people's least favourite. It's sort of in the same bracket as Crystal Skull for a lot of people, and that's fine. That's okay. I don't get that, but that's fine. You're allowed to have your preference. You're allowed to have your opinion. And for me, this is by far the greatest Indiana Jones film. I love it. It is my favourite. What I love about this movie so much is its pacing. It is relentless. It doesn't give you a second to breathe. It is on from one amazing scene to the next. And then when you think that's over, it follows it up with another. It is just stellar. Everything about this movie I love. It was the first Indiana Jones movie that I remember seeing on TV when I was younger. It just blew me away with what I was seeing. People getting lowered into fire pits, their hearts being ripped out. There's a chase in this movie along the tracks, which I just thought was amazing. The rope bridge scene was so exciting. It just didn't let up. It was overload. It was too much, and I loved every second of it. It was just trying to digest this movie when I was younger was just a joy. It was just an absolute treat, and I just love everything about this film. It's amazing to me. I absolutely love it. The Indiana Jones trilogy for me is one of these movies where you can have a discussion with someone, and any one of those 3 movies you could select as your favourite, and I'd understand why. It just works for me so well. But this for me is the magnum opus. I absolutely love it. Great opening scene as well. Love it. The only other thing as well I'd say as well, most people don't like Willie and Short Round in this film. They find them quite annoying. They never really bothered me, but I do get it. I do get they can be quite grating, but for me, I've always had neutral feelings towards them. They never really sort of annoyed me or bothered me, not to the level of like something like Jar Jar Binks. But yeah, I just love this movie. I can't stress that enough. So number 3 for me, we have Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So now we get to the top 2, and I think for a lot of people, these would probably be the people's top 2. Well, maybe with the exception of Raiders, but yeah, this was tough. This was tough. But coming in at number 2 for me, we have Jurassic Park. What an achievement for me. This and Terminator 2 are the 2 best movies, I think, to get the balance of CGI and practical effects right. What a joy. This movie, as a kid, did what it was supposed to do, and it fooled me. It completely fooled me. It made me think that dinosaurs were real, that this had been pulled off. Dinosaurs had been brought back to the modern age. And it just fooled me. It had me convinced that that was happening. That was happening off somewhere, and this was just a movie about it, which is a true testament to the movie. Really had me fooled when I was a kid. But it raises these good questions as well, like, what is mankind going to do now that dinosaurs have been thrown back into the mix? It raises these serious questions. It's obviously more about a movie about the early stages of a amusement park with dinosaurs. It's not quite there yet with the park. We didn't get that up until about 2014 with Jurassic World. Those questions, that scenario. But this is all about sort of having people's opinions thrown in, everyone sat around the tables. All that stuff when I was younger, I used to fast forward all that stuff because it was boring to me when I was a kid. I just wanted to see the dinosaurs. I just wanted to see the dinosaurs doing what they were doing, and that was that. That was still enough enjoyment for me. But as an adult now, well, growing up and getting more and more appreciation for this movie, it gets better on subsequent rewatches. I love it. It is one of Steven Spielberg's best films, an amazing achievement in entertainment, groundbreaking in terms of filmmaking with the CGI and practical effects. It just gets that balance spot on, and I just love it. Love this movie. Again, the John Williams score is amazing. I'm hard pressed to find anyone who dislikes Jurassic Park. I really am. It's a phenomenal movie. Absolutely love it. Number 2 for me, Jurassic Park. So that leaves one movie left, and yeah, it had to be this for me. It's Jaws.
Slow ahead. I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chum some of this shit.
Yeah. What can I say about this film? I just love it. It's another one of these movies, again, that gets better and better on rewatch. Such a simple score, so effective. I actually find it scarier when you don't see the shark in this film, when it is the visuals of it are quite distorted, when it's just below the sea level in the movie. The characters in it are great. 3 amazing lead characters, played wonderfully. Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss, Roy Scheider. Amazing cast. Amazing cast. Everyone does their job so well in this film. Great town setting again. Gorgeous movie. I said it in my review of this film. When you're out on the Orca, you can smell the salt of the ocean. It is just a gorgeous, gorgeous looking movie. Great characters. I don't know what to say else about it. It is just an achievement in every field when it comes to filmmaking for me. It works so well. The shots, the sand, the water, the way it sounds, everything just works magnificently. It's just a joy to watch. It's just a joy to watch. It's harrowing, it's brutal. There's a great jump scare in this movie as well that got me, which I just didn't see coming when I first watched it. He knew He knew how to play it right with this movie, Spielberg, and it's one of his earlier ones. And it is just a magnificent, magnificent achievement. I can't say, what can I say about Jaws that hasn't been said already? Difficult to talk about, difficult to add something new to an already amazing film. So for me, number one, my favourite Steven Spielberg film is Jaws. So yeah, that is it, guys. That is my ranking of the 35 directed movies by Steven Spielberg. So let me know down below, have you seen any of these movies? Are there some that you're missing in his filmography that you haven't seen yet? Are you planning on checking them out? Let me know your rankings down below, the ones you've seen, maybe all of them, maybe more. And yeah, I look forward to checking that out in the comments. So, gonna leave the video there, guys, and say thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.